It's great to be with you again. This is when I love technology, that we can gather together um, when we're so far away that we still can be together. So it's uplifting and inspiring for me to be with you all. So good evening. I feel like I I'm in at ETC. I feel like I'm in the 5:30 p.m. mode, even though the sun is just coming up here. So it's easy for me to make that transition to saying good evening to you. So can you see my screen, the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes,
Yes,
Doctor.
Doctor.
Yes. Okay,
Yes,
great.
yes,
Yes,
we
we
can.
All
can.
right.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
doctor.
yes.
All right, great. So
Yeah.
I'm going to switch to that and just do a little bit of introduction. And actually, you're seeing it not as, okay. Okay, so a quick overview to our agenda tonight. I want to look at just can't help but have a very brief look at why children in the church. Why is this so important to deal with children in education? And then look at some teaching practice and learning environment components. And I was anticipating that some of you have taken courses with me already. I know some of you were in the children in cultural context with me, some in the children with special needs. You might see a few photos that are familiar, but hopefully you'll also find some new things. So just begin with a greeting, how pleasant it is to be with you. Somebody took this picture of me at summer vacation Bible school where they fortunately put plastic bags over us, and then the kids were supposed to cover us with shaving cream. But a little bit about who I am in case you haven't had a class with me. This is my husband. He's never come with me to Ethiopia yet, but Dr. Fru has met him, so he can vouch for the fact that he really exists and he's a real person. I'm honored to be able to talk with you and would love to have you post something in the chat line about yourself, especially those of you who haven't already posted, because I asked you to post something if you have had a class with me. But if you would share something with me in the chat line about yourself, that will help me get to know you better. So, and if you've already shared other things, tell me what your favorite song is, or what you like to do most of all. All right. So I'm actually going to skip that one and I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, I think. My screen is, let me go back to this. Sorry. Oh, that's weird. It's not letting me. Oh, there we go. Okay. Um, so I'd love to hear from you. What's something that you've learned from the reading that you did for tonight? I'm not going to ask you to share for a long time or anything like that. I just want to get a quick look from you at what are some of the things that you've learned about in your reading. And I would appreciate if you would share that verbally. I'm not giving you a quiz. You can unmute yourself and share. So either no one's read the reading for tonight or you don't want to share. All right, I'm not going to let you up. You are going to have to talk tonight. So um, do anticipate that. This isn't the only time. So so let's move to the first topic of conversation tonight. Just a little bit about why children. Um, I think it's so important that the church and pastors for all age groups are aware of children and the needs that children have and how to work with them in the church because for several reasons. There are so many of them. And if we look at just estimates of 2 billion children under 15 in the world, and only 32% of them are Christian, that's a whole lot of children who don't know Jesus.
Hmm.
And in some communities, in some countries, young people are leaving the church. One of the pastors at our church um, spoke and said that his experience in working with young adults is that so many young adults leave the church because they've heard all the Bible stories, but they don't really know who God is and why it's so important for him to be in their life, other than as a moral compass. There is other research that suggests, I understand ETC has the largest class it's ever had. That's fantastic. That's in some cases they're growing. Be sure to mute your phone. So in some places, the church attendance is growing, and adults bring with them lots of children. Uh, this research that George Barna did, he didn't do the piece about the 2 billion children. That's from another source, but the rest of them, the rest of the points are there. Are all done from the US. So it's a US perspective, which may or may not be true in Ethiopia. But that people tend to make a commitment before age 18, even before age 12. The spiritual beliefs that they have are irrevocably formed. If they haven't heard about Jesus by that time, it may be very difficult for them to grow into it. As I would say in my culture in the US, we are in a post-Christian cultural time where they aren't getting it. I had a student once from Canada in my classes at the college where I taught, and she told me that she was really surprised to see Christmas decorations up in our community because in Canada, they had just been eliminated by the multicultural experience and the lack of support for religion. And that was shocking to me that kids were living in truly a post-Christian world in some parts of the West. Um, and I also spoke with a university professor this summer who said to me that so many times kids are not being talked about, are not having conversations with adults in the church about becoming a children's pastor or a youth pastor when they're young, that we're not building that group of future pastors of children and youth in our churches. And whether that's true in Ethiopia or in your community, that's for you to assess and respond to. And I'd love to hear from you, but I'm not going to stop and let you do that right now because you weren't very talkative at the last question. So I'm going to go on, but I am going to give you time shortly to talk. So, why adolescents? Why are adolescents so important? There's been a recent survey. This has better credibility in that it was done globally, with 8,300 young people in 20 countries, where the young people who were Christian reported that nearly half of them said that their children's ministry program had played an important role. And I broke those numbers down from other countries. Another question that they had was about mental health. And there's a lot of research that suggests mental health is positively influenced by spirituality. So if that's if there's a strong need to be working with children and educating them both in the secular world and in the sacred world, um, what are the two components that we're going to talk about tonight about our teaching practice and the learning environment? And those of you who've had me in a class, you know the answer to this. So let's see your thoughts in the chat line. What do you think is the most important part of, and I'm going to say any children's curriculum, not just in ministry in the church, but what's the most important part of the curriculum? Go ahead and speak. The person who raised their hand. I'm sorry, I don't know what your name is.
I'm really sorry, doctor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. This is Nathan Baharo, doctor. Grateful for having you for this course. So I think from the curriculum, one of the most important thing for kids is the storytelling and games.
Okay, great. If other people want to raise their hand, feel free to speak up and just take a turn.
Yes, doctor.
Go ahead, Malat.
Hi, Dr. Wendy. It's good to have you back here. The most important part of the children ministry curriculum is that forming a healthy relationship with the kids. I guess that's the important part of children ministry curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is a trick question, which I don't usually give and I don't believe in, but I would sort of tease you into saying the most important part of the curriculum is you. And I think those of you who said the relationships and having children interact, those are all absolutely important things. Please don't think I'm dismissing them, but I really do believe that your relationship, the respect you show for them, the fact that you truly love them in a Christian love way, those are all really the most important. Kids will remember how you cared about them or how you treated them more than they'll remember what you taught them. But if we take this seriously and point them to God over and over and over again, then that message of connecting the relationship they positively had with us with Jesus is going to be a stronger and stronger component. So I think we do that over and over again by who we are, and we have to do it consistently. If they see us acting one way in church or at school and a different way out in our community. Kids find that a real lack of authenticity. Of course, we need to do it with love and with guidance. And then we can tell them about God's story and ask them questions to reflect. And yes, Adise, I think your point about it helps to understand and know God by themselves. Absolutely. And I think I really got some insight this autumn from one of our pastors at our church about the importance of asking them. We so often in children's ministry and education, we ask kids to repeat the content that they learned. So that they know the story, like who was the king who started out as a shepherd boy and beat a giant. We're so interested in them remembering the content that we forget to ask them the question, what does that tell you about who God is? What does that story speak to you about who God is? And his belief is that it's knowing who God is that is what's going to sustain their relationship over the challenges they face from a culture that may reject that message. So I think pointing them to God with passion, let him take the glory. A colleague of mine from Kenya, I love her expression. She closed her prayer with, God, take the glory. Somehow that seemed really powerful when it starts with an action verb. God, take the glory. You are the one who has gone before us, who's with us, and after us. Take that glory. And that requires humility on our part. And I think especially I am so into Christmas. It's my cultural tradition, but I just love Christmas. And we started celebrating it at our church this last Sunday with the second Sunday really of Advent. But I think the most compelling message of Christmas is that Jesus came as an infant, that the humble beginnings of Jesus really speak to how important humility is. And I'm not saying that God has to learn from us, but I think as teachers, it really requires us to take that relationship with a very humble approach, that we really have to sacrifice I don't know, sacrifice isn't the right word, but put aside our ego, put aside our sense of accomplishment and achievement to really let God take the glory. I think we need to have a base of knowledge about who God is and how to teach. And then the skill, as somebody mentioned earlier, being able to manage time and children well. Those are great comments about the skill required to supporting children's learning. And then I think there's a certain amount of art where we truly listen to the Holy Spirit. And there are times where we're going to get suggestions that may be whimsical or totally unorthodox. And it's God's direction that creativity may be just what we needed to reach a certain child at that time. Okay, just want to hit a couple of myths about best teaching practices. I'd love to hear your response in the chat line to this. Are any of these things that you have heard or have been said in your community? Children have to sit still to learn. They need to be quiet to learn. They can show what they're learning by reading and writing and counting. Teachers have to be talking. We tell kids how to think, what to think in order to teach them. We have to tell them who God is and what he does to teach them about God. And I think those we could almost take them as an opposite. Just giving you an example of the first one and the last one, that children have to sit still to learn. We know that kids are active learners. They are constantly observing, making theories about what's going on in the world and how to handle things. They are more engaged in learning when they're doing something. When I'm leading a group of kids and they're starting to get restless, I know that it's time to get up and move or get them involved. They've got to be learning actively. And then if I look at just the last one as another example, if we forget the fact that the Holy Spirit is also talking within children's minds and hearts, we're missing the power of the Holy Spirit. Kids are also learning from God directly, and we do best by helping them listen to and be aware and be prepared for that message from God. So, any thoughts? Are any of those? Dina Lemseged told me that yesterday you talked about sayings about children and learning. And yes, Nahum, kids do go crazy if they sit for a long time. And the younger they are, the shorter that time is that they can sit still. And they're really distracted and not paying attention to us if they have to sit very long. I think that's a hard thing for us to remember, that if they're wrestling, if they're wiggling, if they're moving, if they're talking to their neighbor, they're not hearing us. So we're not accomplishing anything, and it won't work if we talk louder or longer. I think the younger kids are, the more active they need to be. We assume college students can sit and listen to lectures, but my experience as a college professor is that that's not true either. That all of us are using engagement, either with the world, with other people, with God, as a way for us to learn. Great. Thanks, Laura and Mickey. All right. So I hope this is going to work. Joshua, you raised your hand.
Yes, doctor. Yeah, most of us, even the adults, wants to engage to learn. It's not only with the kids, though the kids are much active. So when they are too active, we think they are being distracted, but that's the way they learn and get some informations. We have to accommodate them. We don't have to expect them to be like us, but even us, even if we are not moving around, you might be discussing something so that we can learn. It's not only in one way. It's our perception and understanding about their activity that hinders us. Most of us, we try to make them quiet so that they can learn, but they can learn even while they are moving. So we
Right.
have to
Right.
just remind you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I hope this is going to. Oh, one of the things, I'm not the children's pastor at our church. I am a volunteer who works with one small group of kids. But this is in our music times when we're learning songs about God, kids are still up and moving. So they're using sign language as a way to teach them. As a way to teach the song to everyone, include everyone. And yes, Idris, and I love that quietness is a sign of great discipline is a myth. You're right. Right. It may be a sign that they're totally in another world right now and not even listening to you. So great point. So let's see. Yeah. So we have older kids who are teaching the younger kids and reminding them of emotions. And the kids are all up and participating when this is happening. So I'm going to suggest to you that there's a new way of looking at teaching, since we got better research from the brain-based learning neuroscientist perspective. We know that kids that memory begins as a sensory experience. The best example I can share with you about this is the fact that our nose, our eyes, our ears are the closest part to our brain. In other words, their connections are so short that they must be really important. That active engagement of our senses is what starts a memory. And the other example I would give you, if you've ever been in an environment where you smelled smoke and it was a precursor to a bad fire, you'll never forget how important the sense of smell is as warning our brain. It's a trigger, it's a connection to our brain. So our memories begin with sensory focus. And the younger the child is, the more sensory involvement they need. But don't forget that when we, in the US, when we experienced COVID and we sent kids home in high school and told them to do all of their learning online, the kids missed the social interaction, the communication with other kids. That was the piece that they thought made school so boring. So it starts with sensory learning. We've got to remember how to engage that. Only then can we move to working and long-term memory. Couple other things that we've learned, and this is a review for those of you who've already been with me in a class, that the brain is really disposed to novelty. It pays attention to something new. Our brain is so clever that if something's familiar, we just go, okay, fine, no problem. I get this. But if we notice or see something new or different, we're going to pay attention to that. That's what our brain's wired to do. So we have to pleasantly surprise kids, give them new things. We can't teach the same way week after week, day after day, or they're just, I think about Charlie Brown movies in the US. I don't know if you've seen this, but the teacher in the background of, I think it's the like around our Halloween time or that, where the teacher's in the background and you hear the teacher going, meh, 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 meh. That's what kids think of our voices if we just do the same thing over and over again. The more sensory dense we make those experiences, the better they are. Emotion drives memory. The more emotionally rich they are, the more likely they are to learn. And then rehearsal strategies really help us move from one thing to another and move it from our sensory to our working to our long-term memory. And then, okay, I need to stop for a minute to start another call that I'm facilitating. And I want to pause for a minute, and I'm going to ask you to, let's see, Mickey, would you facilitate a conversation and ask people, let me go back to that. What do you think about these brain research principles? Do you think they apply? Have you seen any of these in action? And I will be back with you in a minute.
So, in fact, in one of our pre-course assignments, the article I chose was different age groups development, and the early, the preschoolers, most of them learn through sensory. Through sensory system. Most of them, during like 3 months or 4 months, they start to figure out their hands, and you can see them wonder seeing it moving, and the like. They start to appreciate their hand, like I said. When they touch something, it's new to them, and when they grow up, that sensory stimulation, that tactile stimulation, makes them aware of their environment. That develops to the preschoolers, and they need something new in some duration. Otherwise, if they want, if you give them one thing to play with, or if you're using one way to teach them, and if they like it, that means something is wrong. Like that kid might have a special need or something. But with typical children, they usually tend to seek something new, some new methods, some new playing materials, and the like.
Okay.
Over to you, Wendy.
Thank you, Mickey, for letting me put you on the spot.
No problem.
Now,
No problem.
those of you are sorry who said that you've had a class with me already. So I'm sorry. I am yours for the rest of this time. I'm not going to be distracted again. That was one thing I had to do. So let's go to something new that I haven't shared with the classes in the past or this summer. Some work, and I will post in the chat line while you guys are all working. I'm going to post in the chat line the source for this. I remembered this morning that when I just saw this slide, I went, whoops, I forgot to put the source. But the source is a book called Awe by Dr. Keltner. And it's a group of research scientists. This is empirical research. This is something you could use for a research paper, research thesis on the idea of awe and wonder and how it influences and can transform our lives. And what they did, it's a colleague of mine, Sarah Sosa, that some of you may have had a leadership course with at ETC online. She shared this book with me a year ago, and I really think it's a groundbreaking piece for us as we look at children's ministry, child education in general. And I think we do it much more easily in the ministry setting than people do it in the secular world of education, because we are more attuned to awe in our relationship with God. So it comes naturally, I think, to us as teachers and as students to look at awe. So they studied people and said, what is their definition of awe is the feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding of the world. I love the definition because, that's the basis of every time we wonder about who God is. It's a sense of being in the presence of something that's more than we can imagine, more than anything else we experience in the world. By the way, these are a couple of researchers from a secular university, but this is very much sacred-based research that they've been doing. So with that definition, they asked people to share stories with them about when they felt like they were in the presence of something vast that transcended any other experiences they'd had in the world. And by the way, this would be a very interesting study to replicate in your context, whether that be a community or a group of churches. Basically asking people to share their stories of it. So they gathered all these stories and through a research method highlighted what all of the stories were about. And the most common story, so the number one example people gave, were stories of other people's courage, kindness, strength, or overcoming the world. So the awe of, I was just noticed that Malala, can't remember her last name, the girl who was shot in going to school in Afghanistan, who got the World Nobel Peace Prize, Malala, I can't remember her last name. Anyway, she's written a new book. the story of Malala was one that I could always use to capture my students' attention about looking into other cultures and practices, because it was a story of her courage, her strength, her overcoming, her family's commitment to education, all that sort of thing. So this was the most popular. The next most popular was Collective Effervescence, which I have the pictures of my local hockey team in the arena and me with our mascot. Because when I read this book, I went, that's why everybody's gotten so excited about the Firebirds in our valley. It was something that's brought people from all walks of life together in our valley, when that hasn't been a common thing, because we have a lot of culturally diverse neighborhoods. The neighborhoods the farthest south are mostly Mexican families. The ones farthest north are closest to Palm Springs are families of different backgrounds, including a strong gay, lesbian community. And there's all these different communities, and this is something that has brought people together. And that's what they mean by collective effervescence. It's what happens when the Ethiopian wins the race in the Olympics. Everybody becomes a part of, we're all excited together. And I only share that with you, not to tell you the story about my Firebirds, but because I think the church is often missing this opportunity. I don't think if we may not be missing it, but we're not maximizing this opportunity. We have a worship leader for our kids ministry who is always calling the kids, who are you, Northwest kids or are you Southwest kids? And they all yell, we're Southwest kids. It's that little thing, who's the greatest reason for the season? Jesus. It's bringing kids together about something that we share collectively and can get excited about. And I think that makes us all feel really good. I was in church on Sunday, and I had to miss the last Sunday because I was sick. And I thought, oh my gosh, I so miss this, being with these kids, getting excited, remembering what this world is all about. It's that collective effervescence. Can we maximize that? And I think we do that with sensory experiences and active engagement. You understand the rest of them. The spiritual and religious were farther down the list. I'm not sure that would be true if it were a survey in a different culture. But when you add the West in, that's going to be one that's going to get left towards the end. Epiphanies, those are those aha moments where kids get something, like you're teaching them fractions and you're teaching them fractions and teaching them fractions, and all of a sudden you talk about cutting a pizza and you put it in 4 pieces or 8 pieces, and they get what fractions are. And you see that aha moment. Kids' faces light up when they get those things. And I see it more with kids ministry, where kids will come up to me after church and after our small group and say, Miss Wendy, do you know what happened to me this week? And you're like, there's that aha moment. And how can we maximize those and make them opportunities? Okay, so here's what I want to do. I'm hoping I don't know what's going on with my screen. Whoops. Okay, that helped. I am going to send you into breakout rooms. There we go. Okay, I'm going to send you into breakout rooms, and I want you to go into those breakout rooms and talk about how you can bring in those elements of awe into your teaching, whether that be in a public school setting or a ministry setting. Okay? And I need to see. I'm going to break you into 8 rooms. And so what I want you to, I will post up that screen again. Laura, can you still see the screen that has the slide about awe on it?
No, I can't.
No, you can't. Okay.
But I took a screenshot.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that you take a screenshot of this on your own phones, and then you can have it. I'll also try to send a note to you in your breakout rooms, okay? So I'm going to send you into 8 breakout rooms, and I'd like you to come back and post in the chat line. So somebody in your group needs to take notes. Post in the chat line at least 4 ways that you could bring some of these elements of awe into your ministry or secular setting, okay? Does everybody understand? Any questions about the process? All right, I'm going to send you into breakout rooms, and I want to hear a report back in the chat line, a couple of at least 4 ideas that you've had of how you can use these categories of awe to bring into your children's ministry, your youth ministry, or secular setting. Okay, so I'm going to open the rooms and ask you to go into the rooms. And oh, important piece. I'm going to give you 10 minutes in this breakout room, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you again to somebody from your group, please post your ideas in the chat line.
Doctor, sorry, are we here?
Yes.
Are we going to be here?
Yes? Would you please post your ideas
Okay.
in the chat line? Somebody from your group, post your ideas.
Okay, doctor.
Thank Laura.
Oh, this is great. You guys know how to do this. You made it work. Wow, great. So let's just take a minute and look through as people are finishing.
Sorry, doctor. It's not clear to me.
The what? If you open the chat, click on the chat button, you should be able to see all the things people have posted in the chat line. Idrissa Lynn, would you give a couple of highlights from your group? And I'm just going to ask everybody to do that so that those who maybe can't see the chat line can get some of your information.
Okay. We talked about the aha moment to get their attention. We can take the nature, and when we teach them about the living and non-living things, we can select a plant and show them from the seeding moment until they grow up. So when they saw that, they will get their aha moment.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. How about somebody else from a different group?
Okay. I'm Toshala from group 5.
And who posted the notes from your group, Tishala?
From group 5, as we discussed in our group, we can take the nature in order to teach kids how God is greater and how God is creator, to teach them and to discuss with them when we can raise about God's creation, and to tell them how much God is great, so we can put in their mind the greatness of God in their heart, and we can create how God is a great creator by the example. This is our discussion.
All right, thank you. Somebody else.
Okay, I can go.
Thanks, Joy.
Yeah, we are from group 2. So we talked about the different categories. So one of the things we thought about was inviting someone that they admire. It could be someone famous that they see on TV or one of the pastors that they know. And I think seeing that person and kind of getting to know them would be an awe moment. Another one is planning a trip in nature, somewhere they don't go every day, letting them touch the leaves and the water and enjoying that. Also, using visual aids like videos of David and Goliath, for example, or the famous Jesus film. And one of our participants, Ashu, said that he will never forget the picture of Adam and Eve eating the forbidden fruit. He always remembers that. So, using such visual aids can help them see what the characters may look like in person and relate to them. Another one is memorizing songs. Children would, I think, enjoy the beats and are more likely to remember the lyrics of the song more than like us teaching them through just talking. Another one is using simple science experiments like mixing oil and water to illustrate how prayers raise to God. And that will help them connect the physical actions with spiritual truths. So these are our ideas.
Okay, thanks, Doi. And her comments are in the chat line with her name next to them. So you can see that and get those ideas. This is the best alternative we have to brainstorming. I love that Ashu shared the visual images that he still remembers. I had a similar experience of that, where I think the picture of Jesus with the children on his lap was in our Sunday school, and that's a really powerful memory for me of who Jesus is someone who would let children, a stranger, I mean, not somebody that I knew on a day-to-day basis, would invite children to sit on his lap. Better than Santa Claus, but seriously, just a real powerful image. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's interesting. The first one that you mentioned about inviting somebody they admire, I hadn't thought about how powerful that is, but we in the church use that a lot with adults. So famous football players in the US, or I guess that's the biggest thing, to have them come and give the sermon in church. It's like there's a difference of awe when they hear it from somebody that is collectively valued or appreciated, adds credibility. And that doesn't mean that we need to have guest speakers all the time with football stars or politicians speaking in church. But just the novelty of doing something like that once in a while gets people's attention and helps them remember. So thanks. Great job of sharing also. Somebody else. Eob, how about if you share yours? I see yours are in there under your name. Eob, or somebody from your group, room 5.
I think I'm not sure, doctor, which group I was in. I think, but Yo was there, so can I speak some?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Nathan, doctor. So from the list that we have seen, you shared us, we cover some of the things. Let's say natural. We used it in different way. One is to understand the nature of the children based on their age groups. so that we can design different materials and a methodology to adapt based on their age, behavior, and activity. So like some kids are, they can sit and listen and talk, but some kids like me, we can't do that. We must walk around, we must discuss with others, we must play, we must touch, we must experience. So in one class we cannot choose that which kind of student we must have, but we can adapt our strategy based on their nature and behavior, so that we can deliver the same message in different way, so that they can catch up, not to leave anyone in the classroom. When it comes to collaborative, one of the things that I have shared with my teams has in collaboration in our church, children ministry, we take it in the way that we organize two things. One, working with the children, how we can teach them, how they can interact with others. Let's say in classroom setting, we provide them a group painting, not individual painting. Group paintings, puzzles, small circle games in classrooms. Outdoor setting, we allow them to play football, volleyball, badminton, and there we have also local games. It's called Kate, Akukulu. We tune them to the lesson of the day, and we assign a particular facilitator so that can guide them, but they will play each other so that they can learn collaboration, they can learn leadership, they can learn correction. They correct each other. That is rather than corrected by adult. Mostly children, they love when they hear something from their friend. I have kids below 5, two daughters. Now I'm facing it at home also. Like my daughter comes from school or Sunday school, and whenever I say something, she said, "Oh no, my friend from Sunday school said this." So they are more influenced by the peers. That means we can help them by playing each other, by mixing different kids together so that they can learn from one another. Also, visual is matter, but visual in different way, two sides: audio visuals and practical visuals that we segregated in our church. What does it mean? Audio visuals, as we all know, we put films, dramas over the TV or projector so that they can see. But at the same time, we do role play. Role play, sometimes teachers, we act as if like some action taking from some concept, and at the same time we allow them to come and act by themselves at the same time. So a kind of things would help them to interact. Earlier when I engage with you a few like 30 minutes before or something, I was with one of my teenager student whom I taught him from Sunday school all the way to now he's a doctor, a medical doctor. So he was beside me and listening the session, and he was saying that you don't remember that you guys were teaching us with role play, and I didn't forget the story of Samson, the story of David, the story of this and that, even the story of Jesus. He was mentioning that how we were taught them while they were in Sunday school and teenage, and they still didn't forget. Even they know that they recall their memory what kind of costume that I wear in the role plays, different role plays, what kind of pictures or videos that we brought to show them, and they connected it. So it is still with him now. He's almost 25 something and a medical doctor, but he was referring that to me. So these are the most powerful tools to adapt and teach our children so that they can grow alike to Christ. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Nathan. Those are great suggestions. I love role play with kids. When they act out the story themselves, they are much more likely to remember it than if they just sit and hear it from or listen to it or read it. If they actually act it out. I always laugh at this time of year because having a manger scene, it's just, I'm going to get up and I'm coming right back. So I'm sitting in my living room, and so I could grab this easily. So whoops, there goes baby Jesus. I have this manger scene that I had since I was a child. And honestly, I used to play for hours. A couple of angels. I used to play for hours with this manger scene. And I think like you don't have to have this is obviously very, very old. And one of the wise men's head's been broken so many times. It's like it shattered in a million pieces. But playing with those stories, I think the whole Godly Play curriculum, if you're familiar with that at all, I'll post the name in the chat line. The Godly Play curriculum encourages children to use both the stories. So having a doll that represents Jesus and having props to play out the story of David and Goliath, not to just tell it or not to just role play it, but then kids can play it out. And again, these don't have to be expensive dolls. These little angels are very, very old, and they you know, anyway, it's not the price or the value of the tool. It's that the kids actually get to play out the materials. If that idea appeals to you, there's a Godly Play curriculum that you can look at online that is commonly used. So I think those are great suggestions. Thank you for sharing. I see Malat has her hand up. Would you want to share?
Yes, we are from room 8, and
okay, thanks, Malat.
You're welcome. The first one that we think that creating an aha moment into the kids is by being creative, like in crafts, puzzles, or by memorable songs. And the second one is using powerful stories and real life examples. I remember when I was in grade 8, I heard about Malala. You were talking earlier about her. She was shot in her head in Afghanistan by the Taliban because education was not given to female students, and she was an activist, and they shot her in her head, but she didn't stop there. She recovered, and she still stands firm and fights for the younger girls that are still in Afghanistan and in the other parts of the world. And I was in grade 8, and there was a national exam that was being held on. And after I heard her story, I was very motivated. I was very moved, and I started to work hard, and I started to study hard because there are some girls fighting for their education, and I'm here, learning my education freely and, comfortable. So I was so moved, and then I started to study hard. And by creating powerful stories, I believe that it resonates in people's hearts very much, and that it will help them to move more further. And also by using real life examples, like local athletes, we can use their stories for teaching kids or other scientists or doctors. We can teach about their life to the kids, and then we can, encourage them to study more and to work hard. And the third one is by asking them open-ended questions with question and answers. We can teach them through that, and also by engaging through their sensory skills, and also by group challenge like treasure hunting. I remember in you were teaching us in class about treasure hunting, and it teaches students to be united, and it will help them to problem solve things. So these are all our ideas. Thank you for giving me this chance.
Well, thank you very much for sharing those. And yeah, I think our church uses the Orange curriculum in the US, and I know Laura used that in her program. One of the things they always ask small group leaders is to share a time when you were their age that you experienced this. So we did the story of Esther a couple weeks ago, and what was a time that we, the small group leaders, were supposed to share with the kids? What was a time when we were their age, when we felt like God called us to do something for other people? And your first reaction is, and I don't want to sound like I'm boasting about myself, but you make it relatable to everyday life. So I appreciate your point about how powerful those stories can be. And I think sometimes kids remember those stories we share with them very, very powerfully, as much as they remember the Bible story. Laura has her hand up. So Laura, please share. Laura, I can't hear you. Sorry, I'm trying to. Laura, I can't hear you. I saw you put your hand down, so I know you heard me. Can anyone else hear Laura? Is it just mine?
No.
Nope. Okay.
No, maybe
Thank you.
she's out because of the network.
Okay. All right. All right. These are great ideas. I want to go back and catch up one connection that I think I failed to make well. So I talked about what we know about the brain and how the brain is predisposed to novelty. And then I got distracted by that phone call, that Zoom meeting I was supposed to set up, and came back and skipped the remaining three pieces on here. But the importance of sensory dense experiences. The other piece, that emotion drives memory. The more powerful the emotional connection, the more powerful the memory. So I know those of you are also young. If I tell you the earliest memories I have of this were like when President Kennedy was assassinated in the US. That was in 1963, and none of you were even thought of at that point. But the shuttle disaster, the 9/11, those are all memories where I can remember where I was. When there was a bad earthquake here, I remembered it vividly where I was. The more emotionally laden something, the more emotion in something, the more powerful the memory is going to be. And that's where this awe, the reason I'm focusing on awe is because the novelty, the sensory rich experiences, and the emotion that comes into these stories and things that you've all been describing, these make powerful memories. And then the last piece that's on that list is how rehearsing it, going over it, using different methods. And one of the groups mentioned that you can't do the same thing over and over again. You've got to use different methods, inside, outside, all of those things. Those are all pieces that we can bring into play. So when I think about a lesson or activity with children, wherever the setting is is there a novelty? Is there going to be something that pleasantly surprises them? Is it going to be, how can I make it sensory dense? You know, I got assigned to the Bible story the week of Epiphany, when the three wise men came, well, however many wise men, anyway, the wise men came to Jesus, and we all do the frankincense and myrrh thing. But I thought, I wonder if kids have any idea what that is. So I brought in sticks of, I didn't bring gold. I brought up image of a gold bar, but frankincense and myrrh, and passed it around and let the kids, they were like on incense sticks. And it really got a conversation going with the kids of why would you bring that to a baby and blah, 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 blah. It's little things like that that we can add into it that are sensory dense, that make it more meaningful. And I bet you most of the kids went home talking about the smells and why you would bring something smelly to a baby, and why God likes incense and all that stuff, then maybe some of the other, well, certainly that whether there were 3 or 4 or 5. So the importance of those things, I think, are really critical. And that's what leads to that whole idea of awe and wonder. I'm going to skip over the next slide, but these are some of the rehearsal strategies. I've shared this with you before, that you can use to build these experiences for kids. And then you mentioned open-ended questions. I am impressed with Dean Alemseget in your syllabus. You have these different levels of thinking built into your assignments as you're doing your work, and getting kids to think about most of our questions that we ask kids traditionally or typically are at the remember and understand levels, really basic. What was the name of the giant that David threw the rock at? You know, it really doesn't matter if you remember his name was Goliath. What are the giants in your life? Why would God tell a story about giants and little people? Those are the really, these harder questions, the evaluate and create, are much more challenging questions that engage our thinking in higher order ways and are more memorable for us. So, with that, I want to move to our second and final topic today of their learning environment. And I'm not going to have you go fast. That wasn't what I wanted to show. Okay, so some myths about children's learning environment. That we have to have dedicated spaces, that we can't share rooms, that the kids have to have a chair or a carpet square or something and must sit on them, that they must be seen and not heard, that if you're a wealthy church, you buy lots of stuff for kids from the West and you have it all glitzy, and that we need to have things for kids to color. They need to take some piece of paper home. I think those are myths that don't have justification in how kids learn. And I'm going to challenge you to think about, where did you learn about who God really is? The long-lasting who God is, the long-lasting sense of commitment to him. It probably wasn't from coloring a picture in a book or from sitting and listening to somebody. It was probably from an awesome experience where you felt something larger than life captured you and helped you transcend to a different level of thinking and understanding. Ashu's comment about remembering Adam and Eve in the garden. I think that you all probably have some visual memories of things that you or images in your mind of moments where you really had an understanding of who God really was. I remember walking one morning and really having a deep conversation with God about who Jesus was and why he was important. And I can still picture that moment. I can put myself back in the exact spot I was when I was walking, what the temperature was, everything. It wasn't probably in a classroom. So if we take that, yes, there are rules. These are some of the rules in our classroom. I'm going to go quickly because you have access to these slides. Yes, we need to have a plan for the routine and we need to lay out our classrooms or wherever that learning space is. And I'm going to challenge you and say, I really don't think all learning happens inside a room. I think this would be an interesting environment outside in a classroom. Lots of materials and kids engaging. You know what I really want you to notice in these photos isn't the materials. These are students that I used to work with. Is look at the engagement on the faces of the adults in the top right, the middle, the bottom left, the bottom right. The engagement of kids using, and then the secondary piece of using recycled materials. Kids love building with boxes. They don't need fancy boxes. And love playing with games. But again, all the engagement with adults and using natural or found materials. It doesn't have to be expensive stuff. This is in a youth program, sort of middle school like age, like 11, 12, 13-year-olds in Addis, where kids were actively moving, discussing, engaging, playing games, handmade materials. This one is many years ago. I was much younger, the picture in the bottom, where the kids are feeling the tortoise, desert tortoise. And I love the picture on the right of the kid, their look. There's awe and wonder. And this game on top in the middle of putting something, I tried to show this this summer. I tried to show this. I told you about this game called Heads Up that you can get online. And it was in our special needs class, and Tigist, our TA, tried to download it right away online, and it wasn't available outside the US. So I apologize for doing that. But this is essentially the same game where you put a word or a letter, or in this case, a picture of an animal on top of the kid's head, and everybody else tries to ask him questions so that he can guess what it is. I've played that game so many times with kids to get them engaged in remembering, rehearsing the Bible story that they just read. So if the word is David on top of the kid's head, then what are questions the other kids can ask? So somebody might say he was a shepherd. And the answer to that's going to be Jesus, and then he killed a giant. Oh, then they could guess David. But it's that way that you get both kids are learning. The child who's got the card on his head is learning to think about and rehearse the story. And the kids that are asking the questions are learning the hardest part. They're having to ask questions to get them to do that. Again, found materials, getting kids engaged in real life experiences are more likely to be meaningful. I just wanted to share this with you. I'm sure you're all doing different things. This is very consumption oriented, like lots of stuff, but it doesn't have to be that way. These were handed out to all of the kids' families on Sunday. A little packet for Advent for the families to do one activity with as a family each weekend or each week of Advent. And there were instructions which I gave you all 4 weeks of the instructions. And then you can see in the little bag, there are the materials to go with those activities. Well, those are all very Western oriented. They don't have to be, but I love the idea of engaging families in doing something at home about their faith stories. And what we all share that's free to us is that Bible story. And what we do with it can be culturally different or significant. This is our environment. Every month they set up a new scene for the new theme. Again, very American consumption oriented, but that's not what kids remember. Bless her heart, the woman who does this every month. It's a great ministry that she does for the kids. But the kids don't remember that as much as they remember the relationships they have with their small group leaders. So think about where you're investing your time as a leader. Is it in creating environments with stuff or things, or is it building your volunteers to have great relationships with kids? Okay, so here's what this is I'm not 100% happy with these descriptions, but let me say it in slightly different words. So I'm going to have the groups who are odd numbers. Escape. I think I have to do that. Okay. The groups who are odd numbers, I'm going to ask you to do question number 1, and the groups that are even numbers do question number 2. And all the difference is design the best learning environment in a classroom inside or a classroom outside. So odd number groups are going to think about inside, even number groups are going to think about outside. What are the materials or equipment that you think really need to happen? And to make it the best ever environment in your context, not a Western context. I am not asking you to redesign that environment you just saw, because it's not the best environment anyway, but make it so that it's appropriate to the community context of the kids that you're working with. And let's see if I can get this to, there we go. Okay. All right, so I'm going to ask you again for the odd number rooms to design best ever environment indoors. And you may have different ideas because you are in different settings, in different contexts. What are the things you really need to invest your energy and time into? And what would be extra stuff that would be nice, but you don't have to have? Before I do that, yeah, Tadali said a loving environment. So how are you going to create a loving environment? I'd like to start with that idea. Use that as your cornerstone. How are you going to create an environment that's loving, that's awe-inspiring? What are you going to invest your time in? What are you going to invest your energy? What are you going to invest your training of volunteers in to create the best ever learning environment for children or youth? Okay? So I'm going to open your rooms. I'm also going to give you about 10 minutes, and I'll ask you again to please have somebody take notes. I moved you to different rooms so you'll get to talk with different people this time. make sure somebody's taking notes. I see Biscuit is in room number 1. She's a great note taker. You can make her take notes. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to make you do that. But odd number groups think about inside space, even number groups think about outside space, okay? And there isn't a right answer to this question. I want to be really clear about that. I do not have an ultimate list that you all should have. This is really designed on your own environments. Think about where you want to invest your energy and time. What would you go to the church board for? What's most important? What's going to make the difference? And that's why we talked about teaching practice first and learning environment second, because the teaching practices need to drive your learning environment. Okay? All right. I'm going to open the rooms and I'm going to give you 10 minutes and then you will report out. This is the time you need to move to your breakout room. Okay, folks, it's time to move to your breakout rooms. Okay, folks, you should be moving to a breakout room. Johannes, are you not being sent to a room or?
Aragga Yohannes.
What?
Aragga Yohannes. Or as a person.
You should be sent to a room.
Okay.
Do you see the invitation? Do you see the invitation, Johannes?
Yeah, I receive it.
Okay. Ashu, you should be going to a room.
Hi, Wendy. Hi. I'm out because of me, so my group is group one.
Okay. I'm going to ask, first of all, I did put the title and author of this book in the chat line. Because in graduate school, you give credit to the people who did the work and you have to cite your sources. So, would you take a minute and those of you who were recording for your group and post your notes in the chat line, please? And I would be happy to hear some reporting out. Miss A, oh, cool. How about if you report, Miss A? It'll be great to hear your voice. Miss A?
Okay, hi everyone.
Hi. Hi, Masai.
Hi. We have discussed on indoor environments, and we have typically said some things about it, what we prefer if it would be. We would prefer the rooms to be bright, for them to be like to create a comfortable environment for them. We have to have impressive pictures posted on the walls, and it's preferable for it to be spacious, open space, because they will need to run around when they are tired, when they are bored, for them to switch places. And also, if it would be awesome if they have carpets on the floor, so we wouldn't like worry about them falling, or for their parents when they come and take them. You know, some people are concerned about their children's being dirty or their clothes, or they may pick something and eat from the floor. So if there's carpet, it will like it would be awesome for the kids, also for the teachers. And in this kind of environments, we can like give them activities like lesson related games, storytelling. We can tell them stories from the Bible, and songs related to the lesson of the day, and make some crafts with them.
Okay. Thank you, Miss A. It's
Thank
so
you.
good to hear your voice.
Yours too.
How about Doi?
Okay.
I was gonna let someone else share from our group.
Okay, you can
Yes,
do
I've already-
that.
I think Joshua will share.
Yes. Yes, I'm raising my hand.
Great. Thank you,
Uh,
Joshua.
Yeah. We're discussing both the indoor setup, and we come up with some ideas like creating some playing materials with bottles, not to use expensive materials, so we can make them some sand boxes to play with while they have their own size chair, the small ones, and using different pictures and banners on the wall so that we can connect them easily with pictures, and we can allow them to do some drama or games, so that they can play it by themselves so that they can remember it easily. And we can let them to sit even on the mat, not only on the chair, so that they can have some movements from the chair to the mat. It will be easier for them to play around. And that's some of the ideas that we come up.
Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
All right. Thank you, Joshua and Doi, for sharing. Have to
Thank
make
you.
a comment about the carpet. Our church just went through removing the carpet and replacing it with a smooth floor and using carpet pieces. 2 reasons. One, kids are dirty and they can make messes and have accidents. Their bodies are not always functioning well when they come to our classroom, and cleaning up children's accidents from the floor on a carpet is much more difficult than cleaning it from a hard floor. And using the small carpets means you only have to clean that small carpet or replace the small carpet. And the other thing is the learning material. So if you've got paint or glue or all that stuff, if it's spilling on the floor onto carpet, it's really hard to clean it up. So they're much more comfortable to sit on carpets, but I think the idea of using carpet mats from your group is a better way to do that, because it's more manageable to keep it clean and safe. Okay. Who wants to go next? Malat? Go for it, Malat.
Okay. I was in room 2, so we
I
discussed.
love it. Oh, I love it. Now you're making me all feel warm and fuzzy inside.
So the first thing that we thought about is swallowship. Do you remember swallowship?
That's what made me smile when I saw that. Oh my goodness. Thank you for reminding us all of that.
You're welcome. So swallowship, for any of you who doesn't know about swallowship, is just eating together, just having fun, just to talk while we are eating. It creates a connection and belongingness into the kids, and it builds trust. And also we can teach a spiritual significance, like in our ministry setting, eating together reflects about Jesus eating with his disciples, or we can teach them about fellowship or unity in the body of Christ. We can teach them through this swallowship. And the second one is playing outdoor activities like soccer, volleyball, or simple challenge games, and also like building objects like poetry, like using mud and building jabana. It's kind of like a Play-Doh like thing, and we can use like that, and then we can build this kind of things using mud. And also we can use treasure hunts. We can make them to play hide and seek, specifically designed to achieve our goals in order to teach them something. And also dramatize biblical stories. This is what we dealt about.
Great, great. Thank you. I just love the swallowship. I love that this summer, but it just reminded me of I volunteered to work with kindergartners in our Tuesday night children's ministry thing this fall. And normally I've been working with 10-year-olds the last few years, and 5-year-olds are full of much more energy. And I was exhausted every night when I came home from being with them for 2 hours. But they were tired when they got there because it didn't start till 6 o'clock at night. So you can imagine 5-year-olds were really tired by then. Anyway, they were just so wound up. And, but I had the idea to bring a snack with me. As soon as they sat down, they all sat down and they ate the snack. They were talking. We had richer conversation than I ever could have with them when they weren't eating. So I think it really does help to share. I mean, it's a really valuable teaching technique to share that meal time, that refreshment time with kids. Tigges Gabrahadin's church that I went to when I was there this summer, they have a coffee shop, a little cafe next to their church that the church operates. And people go there afterwards for coffee. And honestly, it was almost the best Ethiopian coffee I had this summer. But it was all fellowship of talking about the sermon and what the pastor had said and all that. I think we all get a lot out of that. Thank you for reminding us of it. Okay, let's hear from one more person. Biscuit. How about Biscuit? Sorry, I'm picking on people. They're all good ideas.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Wendy. How are you?
So good to hear your voice.
Yeah, you as well. Yeah, so we are trying to create some Ethiopian cultural environment. Actually, I didn't mention it here, but we have tried. We have discussed about the Ethiopian pain, the one, if we are talking about the Christmas season. So we will try to create the Ethiopian cultural pain, like we call it Barat. And so the environment is so different. And
I love it.
For the kids or for the children, I'm sure they will connect it easily. And we'll try even the saints to bring their memory because every children knows it in their house, everyday uses, So those wise men's gifts, one of the gifts is, I think you mentioned earlier, as frankincense. So people here in Ethiopia, we use it every day in our daily lives. So that's one thing. And I forgot to mention here also, we will bring the Bible verse with the coloring so that the kids color it by themselves to create the memory, to bring the memory. Yeah. The other one is, first of all, it should be a safe environment, and it should be depending on their age group. As Joshua mentions earlier, we might create it a different setting. If the children are so little, then we need to set up a different setting for the little ones. So that we can see them face to face, so that we can engage. So we need that environment. And as Melat mentions earlier, we can use Play-Doh. I like the Play-Doh, and also the kids like it, so that they can bring or create their own doll, So yeah, that's how we create the school environment, the class environment. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Biscuit. I appreciate the emphasizing the safety first. Could you put the name of that word that you shared that you would bring into the classroom, the decoration, or how you would set it up? Could you type that in a chat line so I can?
Okay, sure.
So I can look it up. I'm very intrigued with that idea. Nathan, would you like to share your list? Because I'd love to have you share it.
Thank you, Doctor. My group was group 6. We have discussed question number 2 mainly. So besides what I have mentioned earlier while I was speaking, you remember that the outdoor and indoor class games, especially in outdoor setting. We used to have games that are most popular here in Ethiopia. Like taser games, kate games, akukulu, which is they are familiar. They play those games at their home, at their school, so they easily catch. Yes, we can adapt others from different other foreign countries, but at the same time, the local games remain with them throughout their age, so that we adopt them. But when it comes to this particular question that you have asked us, at the same time we try to see it, how can we organize under the tree the classroom. This is the best opportunity, I think. We are not only bounded to teach them in the buildings classroom, rather than it is Christ's model that he teaches over the mountain, he teaches under the trees, he teaches inside the chapel. So sometimes regularly we can do it and we can teach them. So when we do that, what kind of equipment we can use? We can use mats, woven mats. Let's say in Ethiopia we call them gabis, but at the same time we have different other woven mats that can be put on the ground as a carpet. Also, we can use flip chart. We can use cut out pictures, cut out drawings. At the same time, we will use the tree by itself. We can use it as created by God. That nature is owned by God. At the same time, we can use it as to teach them John 15 as the true vein easily. At the same time, we can bring sheep easily. We can find it around us. We can bring goats. We can bring cats. And sometimes we can bring rabbits also here, so which are available around. So we can teach them that by manipulating by themselves. Also, we can add mud. You know, here in Ethiopia we call it mud playing. When we grow by playing with muds, creating different shapes by muds. Even now in this modern scenario, some companies are made it as event programs for children's 2 or 3 times in a year. So we can bring a mud, we can bring a water, so that they can make their own shape. They can create a human, they can create any animal, they can create anything, even including a cross, so that they can have interactive hands-on practice, so that we can connect it to that God is the owner of the nature, and also at the same time we can teach them that how Christ illustrated the true vein concept, and many other concepts through this outside classroom setting. At the same time, we can do sound recitation. You know what? When we grew up in our time, I think it has ended by our generation timing. We had a class called before you engage to the preschools, formal preschools. We used to go to Qes Timurti Bet, which is reverend school. So a reverend from an Orthodox church, they have a small space around our neighbor. So that's where we grew and learned the alphabets and others. And one of the major methods that the case or the reverend teach us is by recitation under the tree. So we do go, like in age 5, age 6, we do go to him. Formally, families are sending us for half day. So we sat in front of the reverend, and the reverend makes us to recite words, and at the same time, Psalm, a book of Psalm. Because, you know, a book of Psalm has a big role in the Orthodox Church. So they made us recite words plus alphabets plus this biblical part of book. So we can do recitation. At the same time, we can do games there. And at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, interactive things by touching the tree, by touching the goats, the sheep, and playing with them, and the mud. Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you, Nathan. Great report. All of you, these are excellent ideas. They're in the chat line. So you have the option to copy the chat line after we're done with the call. I think you might find it's really helpful. I always do, because I really enjoy being able to read the comments and ideas when I'm not also trying to talk and listen. but I want to, Johannes also mentioned the, in the water, at the fields, in the temple, on the mountain, on the streets, on the villages. Deuteronomy, the language in the Old Testament as you are going, teach these things to your children. In Matthew 28, Jesus says, as you are going, preaching and teaching. It doesn't have to be in a classroom. It's a lot of times those teachable moments are the instantaneous kinds of things that happen that are really awe-inspiring. I think whenever we're struck by awe, it's a great time to share that with kids because we can inspire them as well. This has been a fabulous discussion. I'm looking forward to talking with you tomorrow night about the different generations and how we work with them. I would like to close by sharing with you, awe is, I would like to leave you with awe is what God instills in us. I know that when I go for a hike out in the mountains on the hillsides, I am struck with awe at God's creation, how magnificent He is, how loving He is. How do we instill that awe within children that will help them connect with who God really is? And I'd like to leave you with just something that I already told you I love Christmas. So on Sunday, these were all kids that used to be in my small group. So it's been fun to see them mature, which you all know as you watch kids grow through your programs. Teaching a Christmas carol with a new twist. It's culturally appropriate to where these kids are now with their music, not the music when I was growing up. Let's go out with this. The boy second from the left was so proud to tell me this is his first time being a motion leader. And I'm sorry, I think God just smiles when He sees kids dancing and jogging around to the idea of His good news. So, I was just gonna put someone on the spot. Who will volunteer? I won't do that. I won't put someone on the spot. Who would volunteer to close us in prayer?
Okay, can I pray?
Please, Tashali, please. Thank you.
Okay, God our Father, we thank you because you are our Father, and you are good teacher. God our Father, we bless your name because of your great teaching, because your teaching is very important for us. We thank you for teaching us. We thank you for guiding us to all truths through your Spirit as well as through your word. God, we want to bless you. God, we really appreciate you because you are a wonderful teacher. No one is like you. God, our Father, I pray that you would help us in order to prepare kids and children to raise to all truths, to reflect Jesus Christ, the model in their life. Please help us to do our best in the life of kids. God our Father, again, I ask you to help us, to give us understanding, to do our best in our life as well as in the generation life. God our Father, bless the doctor, bless all the students, bless our instructor, Alam Saged, and we want to commit the rest of classes into your hands. I pray this all in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Thank you so much, Tishale. Please think about, do the reading for tomorrow's class. And the more you think about those different generations, the more interesting our conversation will be. So have a blessed evening and a good day tomorrow. And I look forward to the chance to be with you tomorrow night. Bye-bye.
Amen. Bye-bye.
Doctor.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. God bless you, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. May God bless you more.
See you.
See you.